Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Engineering the Markets. My name is Jared, and it is April 12th, 2022. Happy Tuesday to everybody, and unfortunately or fortunately, we have to start off our discussion today with the SPX expected move. Now, normally we pull this up sort of once or twice a week. We establish it on the first session of every week. And usually the market will stay within or maybe trade around these price levels. And, any breaches or violations of this level will set up potential trade. So yesterday, we had some weakness in the market that brought the S&Ps down to their expected move for the week. Currently, we're looking at an expected move of about 76 points. So on yesterday's session, we started off with our gap down open. Market sort of ran to the lower bounds of the expected move. And we can also notice where we closed. Now, what's so interesting about this is we closed right on this edge. And what would normally be the case is we can have a couple of days trading around this risk level. An example would be from last week, where we actually pull into these price levels and typically we'll sort of over under the price area. You'll see some lower bound prices, upper bound prices, but the overall market doesn't want to move away from this risk level until a new catalyst enters the market. Now, the reason I bring this up is we saw some volatility start to expand yesterday, not only from the weakness in the market, but the fact that we got to this lower bound on the first trading session of the week. It is a shorter week, so there are less trading sessions with Friday being an off Friday. However, the S&Ps are starting this morning with another gap down open. Now, normally, when we see this gap down open, we're looking for support. We're looking for some additional confirmation to maybe look at potential buying opportunities. Usually you want to try and buy lower, sell a little bit higher, and obviously stay out of the way of a downtrend. Market is starting to retest some price levels that were set back in March, some of the upper bounds of some of sort of a technical bounce that occurred in February. We had some price levels, some relative highs on the daily being set here, a little bit of a failed expansion into some downside activity. So this inflection point where the market's trading might be a good area to consider finding some support. However, we're outside of the expected move for the week. So what can start to occur here is the market can start to push ahead and actually see more downside activity in the event of hedging. Now, we talk about this mostly when the market tests and breaches the expected move, but usually what I like to see is at least one day of trade outside the expected move. Usually when we get there, I'm starting to think about that potential. When we trade one day outside, that's when I start to prepare for the worst. And usually what the worst means is simply that if we get into a mode of hedging, you're going to notice some things about the market. For one, you might notice that the market doesn't really have any bullish characteristics in regards to dynamic hedging to the downside. Now, we saw a little bit of this yesterday, a bit more correlation starting to hit the market. Not really any sector that was performing yesterday. Most of them closed in the red. You'll also note that the advanced decline might have been relatively weak yesterday. A good way to see this just after the fact is maybe a heat map, noting a lot of stocks obviously closing red, but more importantly, the key stocks that drive the market closing very much down on the session, some of which closing between 3 and 4% down intraday. So lots of relative weakness in areas of the market that drive order flow. that basically control the market cap of the S&P. You kind of layer this on with what that does to the NASDAQ, which also had a gap down open and is also exceeding its expected move for the week. We'll look at that in just a moment. But these key stocks, the fact that they are relatively weak and the fact that we could see additional downside based on some data coming out today, is why we should be prepared for scenarios back to lower price levels and the way the market might get there. Usually in a dynamic hedging environment, you're going to see high degrees of correlation. Typically what this means is that the selling pressure in the market is not really focused in on one or two sectors. It's not like we're having weakness in tech, weakness in discretionaries, and maybe some strength in healthcare and the like. What tends to happen is the market is selling as a basket. It's selling as a group of stocks. And most of this pressure is forced upon the market through dynamics of volatility hedging. So you're going to see volatility basically on the rise. You'll see things like ES futures going down. And usually that's selling inside of derivative contracts to the S&P are going to be the driving force of downside pressure. Not to say that this is guaranteed to happen. We're just in a condition where this can happen. And usually what I like to do is think about multiples whenever this is becoming a potential possibility, a potential risk for the market. One thing we can say is that the S&P yesterday, at least based on Friday's closed, moved about 76 points. The reason we can say that is because we moved the expected move for the week. So we went all the way to our 76-point target. What would a significant expansion of the expected move be like? Well, it would be another 76 points. So we would double the expected move for the week. And what could that measurement look like, and what sort of prices could we be dealing with? Well, we could just kind of quickly draw out some rough estimate here, and we could be talking about the S&P going back to about 4340, 4350, roughly this area. That's, of course, in periods of significant weakness. If we see continuation to the downside, along with an expansion of the expected move, that would be paired with, of course, vol expansion. Volatility has been on a slight rise. Things like the VIX may be retesting the 25 to 28 areas, obviously reacting quite well off of a relative trend line. And of course, what stocks are selling? Obviously, tech has been in focus. We've seen a lot of gap down opens that have been sold. This is very powerful weakness in the tech sector. Basically, the speed and the momentum of the selling is almost accelerating. And that is in large part due to what's happening to the bond market, right? Rates are rising. Let's see if I can type. Can't type well today. Rates are rising. Different rates across different years are basically on the uptick. And this is putting a lot of pressure in tech stocks. The speed of the move is what's more concerning. If this were a slow and steady grind, I think the market could price this in a little bit more characteristic of, normal trade. We wouldn't see the aggressive nature of what's happening. But interest rates are rising very quickly, and they're doing so in almost like a day-by-day expansion. Every single day is a new uptick. Every single day we're gaining, half a percentage point in some of these products. And that speed is putting pressure in tech. I want to note some key stocks from yesterday just real quickly. The likes of Microsoft. We're talking about a 3 to 4% decline in a market cap stock that carries approximately, and let's see what the market cap is today. We're looking at almost, slightly over a $2 trillion company. Now, Microsoft used to hold a lot more market cap at its all-time highs, but think about the type of market cap loss from yesterday simply based on the percentage move. We're talking about billions in market cap being lost from Microsoft in a single day. And that puts a lot of pressure on the S&P. You pair that with the likes of Apple, which is also kind of getting back down and retracing from its really strong performance the past couple of weeks. That obviously is just putting that short-term pressure. If this were isolated to just tech, like I said, other sectors could take the baton. But short-term, what we're looking at here is a lot of our key sectors are either pulling back, continuing to be weak, or seeing fresh lows. The likes of communication, another big one to focus on, still seeing some short-term weakness. And even financials, which had a decent bid on Friday. Lots of analysis kind of going on in financials here. Decent bid on Friday was one of our strong sectors intraday. We actually had a morning session to the upside that gave the S&P maybe a little bit of a fighting chance, and then they faded for the rest of the session. So it's indicative that the market may be in a position to sell a little bit further. We certainly have the risk of hedging that's facing us currently with the expected move. And last but not least, what could be the catalyst for all of this performance? Well, we have CPI. Now, this is going to be coming out as soon as this session is over. And what we're looking at here is the CPI for month over month changes. Previous reading at about 0.8%, expected 1.1%. So the market's anticipating a month over month change of 1% from previous month. More importantly is the year over year. And what I want to call out here is what the market's expecting. Because I think if you don't have that context, maybe you don't have some of the previous readings, you might say, well, 8% is really high. And if the market rallies off of that, you might be confused. Why is the market rallying when inflation is so high? Technically, it's because the market is expecting higher. So whatever number we get, and we did see some discussion from the White House about preparing for sort of exceeding results or extraordinary types of results. Whatever number we get, the market is anticipating 8.4. So if that comes in hot, cold, in line, whatever, and then the subsequent market reaction, these are the things that you want to trade. This is what you want to be prepared for. Also note that the year over year change has been basically in an uptrend. We've seen about anywhere from 0.2 to 0.5% increases every single month. And it's just reporting year over year changes with that month as the reference point. So 8.4 is very high. We're obviously comparing year over year from March. So March of 2021 to now, looking at that change, and that's sort of our year to date, our full year time frame that we're evaluating. So this data should be coming out at 8:30 market time, and this will be the first thing that you'll see reacting in the S&P. The market's kind of waiting with bated breath. What I'm looking at here is where is the market postured. So relative location. I think the S&P has a decent chance to hold this particular price level. The reason being, the market was able to establish some balance in this area. So it's a bit of a stronger shelf of support. If the CPI comes in line or lower, I expect the market to potentially rally off of that news, maybe to reprice some potential assets back to the upside. And if all that fails, if none of that comes to fruition, at the very least, I have in the back of my mind the idea that the market can expand another 76 points. So in the S&P, what would that expansion look like? what would that price level bring us back to? It brings us back to VPOC. So amidst all of this volatility, if I'm looking at a year worth of S&P data, and I wanted to know what is the price level that the market tends to transact the most at, it is approximately 435. There's some elevated reading at about 440. This is also a big price level for the S&P, but in general, one of those two ranges, one of those two price levels is essentially the fairest value that we've seen all year. It's the area where the market has done the most transactional operation. So a move to VPOC, big picture, is not really that surprising. In fact, it is almost continuously happening on shorter term timeframes. And all we're doing is looking at a larger time frame, such as a full year's worth of data. So prepare for these scenarios. Intraday, we have to basically anticipate what type of volatility we're dealing with, what type of data we're working with on that session, and where is the market postured when this data is coming out. In my opinion, the S&P has a good chance to continue expanding the expected move this week. That expansion may have already happened. We've seen a gap down open. We're at some preliminary support. We're seeing a little bit of pre-market activity around this price level. Market's already able to kind of rise back to 440, back to yesterday's close. We're already slightly above it. So, all in all, the market is really postured for a bounce, and in this case, a back test. But worst comes to worst, if the market rejects, if CPI is too high, if there's just continued weakness in key sectors, the S&P not only can keep going down, but the target might be around VPOC. And that fits the model of expected move. It fits the model of volume profile. And it basically puts us back at the starting line for, in this case, a volume profile analysis. So these are all things to consider today. We will look briefly at some other areas of the market that have been in focus. But all in all, this is what I think a lot of us should be kind of concentrated on. It's going to dictate a lot of our stock selection today. It's also going to dictate some of our bias. So whether you're a bull or a bear, the market may have some opportunity in both directions, but the type of bullish or bearish setups might be a little different. For one, if we are coming into a dynamic hedging environment, the downside is going to be typically very forced. It'll almost feel like you're fighting the market to the upside, and the downside will just be continuous. You'll see a lot of just very choppy price action as the market gets dragged lower, and throughout that period, you'll see volatility rising. So that would be the best case for a bear, usually because the wind's at your back, market is obviously moving lower, and you're catching a relative downtrend. Something like a counter rally might have already begun. The pre-market activity is dictating some of that. And what that can do is allow us to basically have some predefined support. The market can hold pre-market lows. The market can even establish sort of a higher low scenario. That becomes the line in the sand. And if the market wants to rally, we should see some of that behavior once this data comes out. But to look at some other areas of relative risk in the market, still monitoring crude. I'll remove volume profile here. Keep in mind that the crude weekly chart is testing a weekly downtrend. So, the news cycle, maybe the environment that we've been trading in might have you think that crude is still postured quite strong, and yet the technicals are stating something a little different. So far, we haven't breached that low with any significant volume or follow through. So right now, it's still technically our support area, but crude is testing it. We're not seeing the same upside. We're not seeing the same momentum. And while this is fading, another thing to monitor is things like the product depth, or how skewed is the crude contract relative to some of the back month contracts. What I have here are 3 different curves for crude. I have about 2 to 3 weeks prior, so late March, I have the beginning of April, and then I have today. And red, yellow, green, or red, yellow, blue, it shows that obviously the pricing has gone down. Short and back month crude is priced much lower than it was a couple of weeks ago. But additionally, the curve itself has reduced. We're not seeing the same highly backwardized market in this product. Instead, this is becoming a bit more flat. This doesn't necessarily mean that crude is going down, but the pressure of crude in regards to rolling these contracts has started to abate. And when you see that, you might start to think a little bit less bullish and more neutral. It's the market sort of having a phase transition from, in this case, a backwardized market into potentially a more flat, or even possibly going back into contango. And what this can do is change the trend. It can obviously change the perception of supply demand in this market. And we could see crude sort of level out over the next couple of weeks, assuming there is no other catalyst to drive this market back into its previous state. So keep an eye out on this. Obviously, this isn't the darling of the energy world anymore. It's much more focused in on natural gas recently. You'll note that natural gas is making new swing highs, breaking out on the weekly. And bigger picture here, we're talking about monthly swings in a monthly uptrend. This has been the case ever since the beginning of 2020, as the monthly uptrend was forming and obviously establishing itself through this retracement. So natural gas has become back in focus. Obviously, everybody's looking at these fresh prints and looking to see how far this expands before we see our next big retracement and our next consolidation. So energy market as a whole, a little bit of bullish activity yesterday in silver, a little bit of a pop through our downtrend retracement. Keeping an eye on this to see how they fade that moving forward. And gold as well, seeing a little bit of a bullish uptick here, a little bit of support, a relative support at about 1900. Gold market looking to breach about 1960. Haven't seen a strong enough close yet to really confirm that breakout, but we're looking at the market starting to get a little bit more excited about metals. And this is, of course, in the face of a relatively strong dollar. So let's see, what else? We looked at bond market, we looked at interest rates. I think that's pretty much it. A little bit of a shorter session, and the reason being is there really isn't too much to discuss outside of these thesis ideas. In the next, let's just say 6 minutes, we'll get data. That data will dictate an initial reaction. That reaction will give us an idea of bias for the rest of the session, and how the market opens from that bias will be what we're trading. These are all things to pay attention to, but posture-wise, I wanted to highlight some of the risks today. We're at the lower bound of the expected move. We're technically trading outside of it in pre-market, although we have returned to previous day close in the SPY. So any downside movement from here is still in that area of breaching expected move and expanding the trading range for the week. If volatility is rising, keep an eye out for weakness and downtrending activity across the market. You might want to look at things like advanced decline. This tool, for example, gives you things like an index watch. If you have ways to visualize or quantify which stocks are advancing, which stocks are declining, how bad is it? What sort of capital flow are we seeing in these stocks? Is it pegged in one direction, and is the market unable to get out of its own way? Those are all characteristics of hedging activity. And we should see that pretty evident if the market does react poorly to this data. If it doesn't, then we're back to normal. We're back to looking at inside expected move. We're going to be looking at just normal trading activity. And overall, if we can recover, that's typically the most likely scenario. To get back inside the expected move is more probable than to expand. But you always have to have that scenario in mind. And how far can it go? I'd be looking at VPOC. I'd be looking at about 435 to 437 in the S&P, getting down to pre-market low, and then VPOC would be a little bit lower. So all in all, that's it. We're going to call it a little bit early just to prepare for this data and kind of see what the market does. So as always, trade safe. My name is Jared. Stay tuned for pre-market prep. We'll look at what the watch list is offering, but I think a lot of things will start to appear as we get this data reaction. So as always, keep it green, and we'll talk more tomorrow.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Norm. How's everyone doing today?
Hey, good morning, buddy. We just had the big number of the week come out. That was
Yeah,
core CPI came in lower than expected. So,
yeah. I was just noticing as soon as I hit the button, I saw volume just flood across the spy here. So that's certainly looking very interesting. As we're ripping northward right now on the spy. Very interesting that the spy today. Actually, guys, let's check this out real quick. Look at the what did the numbers say, Norm?
the core CPI month over month was, I believe, zero point 0.3 versus a zero point 0.5 expected. It came in. I don't. I'm gonna take that back for a moment. Yes, core CPI I'm seeing zero point 0.3 versus. Give me just a second. I'm trying to get my way through it, and I've
Yeah,
got.
take a second and digest for a second. Notice this, everybody. Notice how we managed to, in the pre-market, we gapped right down into this support area at S3. I was looking at the daily chart. There's a high value area right in that same spot. If you zoom out here, look, come back right there. Notice how we're picking up this data from back in back in the end of January. You can see there we've got this large, and notice how we kind of dipped right back into that high value area this morning, and we're immediately popping back up against it now with the numbers out. Now it looks kind of intentional. It looks really nice. So kind of it'll be very interesting to see how we open today with this all of this pre. I mean, we're gonna have an hour before the market opens to let everything exhaust itself. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, some of the data I got was a little weird, so I didn't want to say it.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
month over month, core CPI zero point 0.3 versus zero point 0.5. Year over year was 8.4% versus 8.5%, so one tick lower than expected.
Hmm.
That's what I'm seeing. Hopefully, that's correct. The market's acting a little weird. Made this huge pop and then it's just sitting there. So we'll
It'll
see.
be very interesting to see what happens. You know, you always get those news algos that kick on and kind of just make all kinds of crazy decisions. You don't really know if they're right or not. It did that the other day. It was like at 2 o'clock they had like a second Fed speaking of the week or something like that, and everything went nuts for about 5 seconds, and then it settled right back to where it was.
Somebody asked what CPI was. It's Consumer Price Index. It's a index that measures how prices are changing for consumers, and we're in an inflationary period. They are rising right now. 8.4, 8.5, 8.3. Those are all higher than we've seen since the early 80s. So essentially, if you had $100 last year, it's worth 92 ish now.
Mm-hmm.
Your buying power. So that's what that is. Inflation, bad.
Buying
At
power
least
down,
high
prices up.
inflation like that. Yeah, exactly. So,
No bueno. So, well, with this little pop and volume hitting the SPY, that managed to get a few more tickers to hop onto our gap up list, which is nice. Also seeing some familiar names on our downside, so we'll have to keep an eye on that and see what's going on. Let's see here. I'm a little out of order now because that was going on. Spy is continuing to push right now, so that's quite interesting. So why don't we go ahead and let's anything else on the pulse? I mean, I think we just kind of hit the pulse already. We got anything else going on over there, Norm?
well, earnings start tomorrow, so that's good news. We should have some interesting market action today with the numbers that just came out. Then we've got a Fed speaker at 12:10. I don't think anything of that really. I can't speak. Federal budget deficit at 2. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what the day brings us.
Right on. Well, so far, things are starting to shape up to be a little interesting. The spy already kind of running a little bit here, had a nice pop up. Be really interesting to see what it starts to do when it starts to challenge, previous days high. and open, those kind of areas. So, but until then, let's go ahead and see what we've got gapping. I normally like to start to the contrary side, so let's go to the gap down list to start off this morning. First one up is Myovant Sciences. I'm sure I butchered that in some capacity. Volume doesn't look fantastic, but we're certainly gapped down quite a bit. 41 mil float. Normally only trades about 71 cents. It's moved a lot more than that this morning. But I think we're gonna have better than this today. Anything interesting?
Yeah,
there,
it's
Noah?
garbage.
Yeah.
No,
Garbage.
it's a pharmaceutical. It's a biotech out of the UK. That's 2 hits. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair. So we'll hit BWV. See, this blue water vaccine's been on for a couple of days. It's really easy to hit the gap down list when you're, in this small of a range. So, but what you can see here, and this is kind of what I talked about before, we had this one really big, awesome day where this thing went nuts when it found out it wasn't going to do what it's going to do. And then you can see what we've been saying the past couple of days is these days are probably going to be really choppy or small and lackluster. And as you can see, we've kind of continued that. So definitely not going to put BWV on the list at all now. CarMax is KMX. Yep, CarMax hitting the list. This normally only gets going around earnings time and stuff like that. Are they doing earnings already, or are we?
Earnings dropped just a little bit ago. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's get the party started. We got earnings. CarMax, I don't recall trading exceptionally well at any point in time. But, maybe since we're having some fun, maybe it will. But right now, look how flat it traded yesterday. I don't know. Need more volume, but at least it's something. We'll throw it on here. First thing to even get close to the list. And I can't type it. That should tell you something right there. If it doesn't let me type it.
Yeah, it's got no volume though.
It's got nothing. Cisco. Old familiar name. I used to do so much work with their equipment. Gapping down big time. It's actually been running from VWAP for about a week now and gapping down now. Big broke down from S4 in a big way yesterday on the daily. This thing's looking super weak right now. Lacking some volume in the pre-market, which would be nice, but chart-wise, looking aggressively bear right now. What's going on with Cisco?
They got a downgrade out of Citi from neutral to sell with a move from 65 to 45 on the price target.
All right, downgrade. That's viable. That's a solid catalyst we can work with. So all right, cool. That's gap down for the moment. Let's see what came alive with the SPY. Veru Inc. Had a big day yesterday. What happened with Veru?
Yeah, it essentially tripled yesterday. This one was in play. I know Brian Pasm was trading this one. So they've got a oral COVID treatment that has shown a marked drop in death rate in people that take this. So
cool.
Really in play. It'll be in play again today.
I like the idea of just being able to take the oral for vaccines. I think that's a really cool direction to be able to go in.
It's not a vaccine.
Oh, it's not? It's a therapeutic?
It's a treatment, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, either way. And it's just shown significant efficacy and reduction of death rate. That's what you're saying. That's cool. Nice. Cole's in the house. KSS. I have only traded Coles maybe one time in the past 2 years, and it was on earnings. But it looks like it's had a couple of fairly decent-sized moving days here, but it looks like for the most part does not trade generically well intraday. What do we got going on with the KSS today?
Sorry, there's a comment on YouTube that just cracked me up the second you were asking me that. Coles is likely to be bought out soon, and there's word of maybe another suitor, if you will, hopping into the fray to try to grab up some KSS.
Nice, cool. I wonder who's gonna end up getting them. I kind of like Coles, so I hope they don't. They're a good spot down here for a little while. let's see. IONQ. Can I just gingerly skip past this one, or is there anything you like about this?
No, I hate this sticker.
Gingerly skipping.
You can run
Gingerly
from it as
skipping
fast
that
as
one
you.
too. Okay,
You
here
can,
we go. So
kicking and screaming.
NVIDIA is actually something I'm personally interested in today. NVIDIA went below S4 into this thing, but one thing I want to kind of point out here that I've been looking at on NVIDIA, notice how NVIDIA sold a little bit yesterday, but look at the Qs in general otherwise. The Qs had a much bigger sell day, and now bouncing with the SPY. NVIDIA really didn't seem like it wanted to give up the goods. I hit Mara by accident. It really didn't seem like it wanted to give up the goods yesterday. It really held on to this range. So if the market goes counter trend, I might be looking long for a squeeze on NVIDIA back to VWAP. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Right now it's still under S4, so it's still in a breakdown area, but I think it could be fun. If tech wakes up and people start buying in this lower range, I think it could be fun. Let's see here. Mara is coming on. I think BTC I saw was back up the other direction a little bit. Yeah, Bitcoin
Up a couple percent.
waking up a little bit.
40,500.
I still can't comprehend 40,545. It's still not something I'm capable of, but here it is. It's just awesome, but who would have thought? So it looks like Mara is responding to Bitcoin waking up a little bit. Well, man, this thing's moving on me. So notice yesterday we had a pretty tight indecision candle. Today looking to maybe make new highs. If you're looking to play this sector, Mara can be a really nice one to trade, especially once things get trending. Neo is my my other sleeper yesterday. So I got a great trade on Neo yesterday. A lot of us saw this gap down opportunity as a fill possibility. And we were actually longing around S3 on the daily here, cam level, and got this beautiful move back towards 20. I'm gonna keep an eye on Neo today. Neo is just super under the average price on the daily, so it could do nothing today. It could just chop like this little day here. I'm not sure, but if we've got above 20 and we're strong, Neo could pose an opportunity for me. Let's see, BP. If you end up having any notable news on any of these, Norm, just holla. Because I'll just roll through. Let's see. BP popping a little bit. British Petroleum, or what used to be, right? Is that still their name?
Correct. No, their name is just BP now, technically.
It's just BP.
But yeah, it used to be British Petroleum, correct.
So my uncle used to work for them back when the whole Gulf thing went down. He was the guy who negotiated with like the settlements. He was a lawyer between fishermen and BP. It's pretty crazy. So BP popping, SPY popping again. SPY starting to run. I'm just gonna keep flying back. Cause SPY is kind of what's interesting right now, but SPY all the way to R4 now. So very interesting. We do have a tight range. So if SPY can open above 444, we might be having ourselves a fun day. We'll see what happens. All right.
Oil's up a little. BP usually trades pretty terribly. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the screen and I get thrown off by the lag. But since we were talking about BP for a second, I would just say there's oil. It's up a little bit this morning. There might be other plays other than BP because I don't see any BP specific news really, unless I'm missing something.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that lag too, because it doesn't lag to YouTube, but it lags into the chat room, and it makes no sense because I'm coming from the same place, so it makes no sense how my video screen and system can be lagging in one area than the other. But someday we'll figure that out. Thankfully, I only cover when Carlos isn't here. Let's see. Tesla is on the run this morning. Definitely something to keep an eye on. I was actually watching Tesla yesterday because I kind of had a feeling Tesla was just kind of in a spot where it looked like it could be fun to play. We were down here and it didn't really do anything. So today, holding S3 in the daily, been on a nice run since 8:30. Once that news event hit, that made Tesla happy. Apparently in the morning. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see how it goes. Roblox actually moving up. My son still really likes this. But it looks like they're gapping back up against, maybe trying to set a pivot off of S3 yesterday. So that could be really interesting. Could use a little bit more volume. Any notable news, or are these things just kind of popping with the market?
I'm not really seeing anything fresh on here.
Cool. The Prophet of Profits, personal favorite. Oh, I know what Brian Peslam's going to be playing today. DKNG looks like it's bottoming on the daily, with a bullish ladder. Come on, Peslam. I know what you're up to today. DKNG. I'd like to see some more volume, and we've already got a few good one coming in here, but I kind of like, we're making this new high. We had this kind of higher volume like candle yesterday, making new highs with the market. If we can hold above S3 and make highs, maybe we get a move on DKNG. Let's see, RIVN. Not loving the volume. Probably still EVing. What's CAH? Cardinal Health Inc. Popping. Oh wow, this thing's actually kind of been moving a bit for a little while, but it looks like it trades horribly intraday.
This morning out of Morgan Stanley, equal weight to overweight with a $74 price target.
Yeah, I don't like the way the candles look though.
Doesn't trade great.
It doesn't look like it trades very well. Pass. You guys let me know if you want it. For now, I'm passing. Pinduoduo. Been in this crazy tight consolidation for forever. I don't know if I wouldn't. This one doesn't work for me, but it's could be nice if this thing ever does break. It could be an awesome day when it does it. I probably won't be watching it the day it does it.
There's a lot of China on the board that's better than that, I think.
Yeah, when it does do it, I won't be watching it because I'll be watching something else, unfortunately. But that one will just be the one that gets away. Plug, power, kind of popping back up against. A lot of things are just kind of waking up with the market. If you guys see anything you really like, y'all can call it out too. But right now, if it's low volume or it looks like it's just popping with the market, I won't take it. Let's see. Southwestern Energy. I don't know if I've seen SWN before. Volume doesn't look great. Trading looks okay. Doesn't look great.
Once again, we got our trusted buddies to go to, the Oxys, XOMs, stuff like that. If you want to trade oil and gas, it's probably the way to go because that's just moving on.
Fair
Primarily
enough.
The oil being up 4% this morning.
LSID looking interesting on the daily here, but still needing some more volume. I'm going to leave LSID on just because LSID trades fairly well for me from time to time, but I like how we've thrown this indecision candle right down on S4. It's a really nice turnaround spot if it's going to happen, but it'll have to set up just right, but it'll be worth keeping an eye on just in case. Let's see, make sure I didn't miss anything. BEKE I missed, but that's okay. If you guys want that one, let me know. Let's see. So this is ATT. They're gapping back up against the giant gap down they had yesterday. So the question is, are we looking to fill the gap a little bit today? We went from 24 gap to 19 and then filled the gap back to almost 20. Today we're at 20. The question is are we looking to fill that gap now, or what are we going to do here? But that's certainly some interesting price action. The market news, especially, well, no, it was really more around 8 o'clock that T. So T woke up before the news. So it'll be interesting to see what that one does. But this is, what happened with T yesterday? I forgot.
They spun off a division of the company.
That's right.
Discovery Warner Media deal. So it didn't really drop. That's kind of a
that's
funky,
kind of confusing, huh?
Yeah.
So they spun off. So help me out with that, Norm. Actually, so when they spin off, are they actually changing their share quantity and such when they do that, or?
So I didn't dig deeply into this one. Generally, you would essentially get If you had shares of T, you would additionally get another share of something else, and that would make up the price difference in the stock.
Oh,
That's
I see. I
and
see.
I don't know the fine details in this one, so don't
It's
say,
so they
oh, you
probably
said
came
something
up with like
wrong.
a percentage basis per shareholder or something, and everyone got a
I'm
thing.
not
That's
a fan
interesting.
of AT&T and trading it. It's garbage day trading stock, so I didn't even pay any attention to it. But it's been a big thing, especially in the news world, CNN moving over, all that kind of stuff. Big media shift in media, but
Hmm,
as far
that's
as
cool.
the financial stuff, it's kind of meh.
That's good information, though. I was kind of curious about that when you mentioned it, so I thought it was good information.
Yeah, so essentially you'd get a share of WBD as part of it, and it would make up the difference in price. So
Hmm,
from one morning to the next, if you owned it, you wouldn't have that drop. You'd have something in addition.
interesting. That's very interesting. Let's see. Okay. AMD. Um, AMD. I was kind of hoping to play yesterday because it had dropped, but it sold further. Now it's coming against maybe today's AMD's day. Really bullish looking ladder right now to the top side. So it's looking pretty aggressive. The market looks very bull, at least at the moment. And AMD's looking to open above R4. So AMD might be really nice for a breakout play today. So I will have AMD will definitely make my list today. So that's pretty good. And then we have Amazon. Amazon, I can't trade this thing because I mean it's look at the price, but it's looks to be above R4 and pretty
Let
excited
Peter
about it.
trade it for you. He'll take 5 shares and partial each one separately.
I like it. Do it. I don't even know if
It's
my bank can
awesome. That
handle
was one of
five
the
shares.
funniest thing I've ever seen when he did that.
That's awesome. Oh man, but we are kind of gapping against this sell down off. So maybe today might be a nice day just for a little relief rally, maybe from kind of all the selling that's been going on. Let's go ahead and go hit the our announcements and all of that stuff. Get that knocked out, and then we can pop into some levels for everybody and get that done. So I'll go ahead and pop over to that. Oh yeah, that's right. Why don't I just you want me
Yeah,
to pull
just go
that
to the
sheet up
webinar
again?
screen, buddy,
Let me
and
pull
run
that up.
through that. And if you just go and discuss it at the same time I'm talking about it, I'm going to do an abbreviated version today. We've got a decent list with a number of tickers, and there are bound to be more that pop up. So just go to the webinar screen and share that. We'll talk about every Monday. We've got the every Monday we have the onboarding that is at 7, and it is available to anybody that is a member, even a free trial member or any of that. So check that out. Then technology immediately following that next week is Kyle with a DAS Trader Q&A, and the week after, Carlos will be talking about using scanners and news alerts to find trading opportunities. Then on Tuesday, we do strategy. Tonight, Peter, my man, 8 p.m. how to take smart trade entries, and then next week, Eamon will be talking about his parabolic reversal strategy. That's at 5. Note the special time because of his time zone. Then Wednesday, tomorrow, we've got Mike at 8 p.m. talking about trading psychology, why you should care about it. Thursdays is mentorship at 11, 4, and 8. And then markets close this Friday, guys. So short week, but usually we have crypto talk with Jared at 11. Don't forget about our free web-based trading simulator at stocktradingsimulator.com. You can go there. You'll get a couple of homework assignments a week to point you in the direction of what to trade on any specific day. And also, if you're watching on YouTube and haven't been in the chat, use the promo code premarket24. It'll get you a discount off the intro membership. Just go to bearbulltraders.com, scroll down about halfway down the page. You can click the test drive now and then use the premarket24 code, and it'll get you a discount.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Norm. Appreciate it, bud.
Yep.
Let me clear that off the screen. Maybe it worked that time a little better. Let's go ahead and let's check out a couple of tickers today and start looking at what we're looking. Let's go ahead and go back to AMD. I'm going to start here looking at AMD. If y'all in YouTube land or over in the chat room, have a couple of tickers that y'all want to end up taking a look at, go ahead and feel free to queue a couple of those up and I'll hit those. Just flipping back over to the SPY real quick, actually. SPY above R4 continuing to move very strongly in the morning, so that's very good. The only concern I'm starting to have a little bit now, to be honest with y'all, is we're going to exhaust ourselves in the pre-market. This is some very fast, very aggressive pre-market action. And it tends to be when I find once we've had a really big move. I mean, hopefully the excitement and the news. I don't really know why the news that came out, to be honest, is making the market move as aggressively as it is. But I mean, it is. But I mean, if we exactly, Sean, if we come against the trend too much, we're gonna get stuck in a consolidation. So we'll just end up getting halted. But hopefully, I mean, with any luck, I mean, we'll kind of start to hold up here in a little bit, and maybe even come off a little bit back towards 444 on SPY. If SPY opens at 4044 or just above it, we could potentially look for that breakout day. So I'm really interested in that. I'm just really hoping we don't exhaust ourselves in the market before we're able to do that. So, coming back to AMD on that thought, AMD yesterday held its breakdown range, stayed above S4. Today is gapping against it. So if tech goes into a rally today, which AMD and I thought I had an NVIDIA on here. You notice like AMD and NVIDIA both kind of did a very similar thing, and now they're both above their breakdown ranges. So if tech, like Q's, notice what Q's is doing, bounced right off of the high value area at 340. If Q's and tech can go to rally along with SPY, then we could definitely have ourselves a nice bullish relief day. But again, we're moving so much in the pre-market already counter to trend. It's going to be really easy to get trapped in a bull trap, because you're gonna get really excited about this fast price action getting up. People are going to start buying long really early, and then the market's going to sell for the first half an hour or hour. It's going to be very annoying while you're trying to buy long, and then everything will go long later, which will also be super annoying. So we'll have to keep an eye on those. So for tech wise, AMD is definitely going to be, I'm going to start my personal watch list down here on the bottom. So anyone's down here, I'm certainly going to be watching AMD for sure. For out of the tech sector, I feel like AMD is below $100. I think it's holding above S4. I think it's at the lower bottom extension of this range. It's pretty far away from VWAP on the daily, so your average participant that's bought into this sitting way at 116.82. So I think there's a good chance we could get pulled back to towards value on this one if we get a strong day today. So I'm going to hang on to AMD. So I'll take that off of this. So Neo is going to be another one I'm going to keep on I'm definitely going to have on my list today. I really like Neo's hold and open right at S3 yesterday. I'm not really sure why I didn't play Neo earlier yesterday, but I did get a good long on it when it pulled back and held yesterday, and got a good piece of this move back up today. Right now, the level 2 has a nice order set up to 21, but it has some lingering orders back at 1950, so we got to be careful with that. Because we're opening mid-range right now, so we need to be we're kind of opening in a kill zone. So Neo, we're gonna have to be careful with not to get trapped to top side on this one. It's got such a big lower range. We might need to let it sell off for a while before it's actually going to be a viable long. So we'll watch for Neo. Neo actually kind of, if it opens where it is, actually might become a short and let it come back into range. So we'll have to pay attention to that. But Neo, I like its movement. I like this big day it had yesterday. I think today it could do something. The rare look at Tesla. I really like Tesla this morning. I'm actually going to have Tesla on the list, which is very unusual for me because I normally don't play stock prices this high. But Tesla woke up around 8 o'clock this morning and has been fairly decently trading in the pre-market. So I'm interested to see what it's going to do today. Thoughts on Billy and news from China? Which news from China are you specifically talking about? But I'll look at Billy for sure. See, there's a lot of the Chinese stocks are kind of popping against the trend. A lot of these I've noticed have been doing this. They've been just stuck in this like long-term consolidation, like they're just waiting. So they're not really selling anymore. They've just been waiting. So it'll be interesting to see if it can come and pull back to VWAP. Oh, I didn't know that. China is issuing the video game license again. That was the Billy news. That's interesting. That's cool. I mean, that's really cool news. So I mean, certainly could be interesting. I mean, we've been slowly moving up since before 8. So, and I like that because it's not like this kicked on when the 8:30 news came out. This was already starting to move. So, I mean, I do notice this. This is kind of a standout. While the rest of the market yesterday kind of sold off pretty aggressively, Billy grabbed shares. So, remember, I want you guys, especially, off in YouTube that don't get enough chance to do with these with us. When you're looking at this candle, see how this candle's red, right? That doesn't necessarily mean it's a sell candle, right? If anything, it just means, all it means is that the closing price was lower than the opening price. That's it. If all the volume came in on the bottom of the candle and then pushed it back up 20 or 30 cents, but it all came off the bottom, you could still get this big volume bar to be red, even though this candle is actually a buying candle, right? So notice we're in the upward position here, and we had a lot of volume come in here as a response to this new high, and we need to pay attention to that because now we have some potential news that sounds good financially. We also have what could possibly be short covering occurring or bulls buying in, right? So you got to pay attention to this kind of stuff because if you go to read it at first, you could say, man, that's a lot of selling there. I'm going to short off of that. And then the next day, why is the price up? Well, that's not necessarily shorting, right? It could be actually short covering. So just got to keep an eye out that with the catalyst. I like that. Good call, right, on Billy. Oh, man. Elcid, wait for the rest of us. Aw. So now you see why I picked out Elcid earlier today, because Elcid can be a lot of fun. But Elcid held S4 here. These are, for everyone in YouTube, these are called Camarilla pivot points. They're a S&P futures-based predictive system that uses highs and lows with some fun math in order to come up with some predictive concepts of where the price action will become extended and consolidate. So you can see here where we actually came down here and we held off of S4, and that's why I wanted to look at Elcid today, because it was kind of looked like it was getting ready to make some new highs. Look what happens when it made the new high above R4. Popped right through the daily level and out. So Elcid looking fun. I'm kind of upset that it already went as far as it went. I'm going to actually need it to retest this daily level before I'd be able to get long in it, but maybe we'll get a shot on that. We'll keep Elcid on the secondary for now. Tesla on main, Neo on main. Robert M, sorry the delay. I really don't know why, but it's not delayed over on YouTube. Well, I mean, it's delayed. It's just everything's delayed together. Where for some reason coming into the room, my video is coming off delayed, and I'm not sure why. So I've got no settings I can do to fix it. So I don't know. Maybe someday it'll miraculously sort itself. So we have AT&T dropped like a rock yesterday, but it wasn't really a drop, right? It was a share split off a part of the thing. So I really don't know how to play this, to be honest. I really don't even know how to look at this chart now and establish what I believe is AT&T's current value. Because for me, for me, it doesn't really like make a lot of sense, right? To how to quantify. Okay, so it was worth $24 3 days ago. Well, what's it worth now? They spun off a division, right? So for me personally, T doesn't really trade well anyway, but I wouldn't trade it at all. I would let T settle out for maybe even like a few weeks so that you can start to see where the broader market evaluates AT&T as an entity minus whatever division they spun off. People may see that as a financial win for AT&T, and it may actually rally and go right back up to where it was before, even though they spun it off. They could see it as a financial weakness, and this thing could actually start to sell like crazy. So, but how would you know that until the I'm not a long-term speculator, so I don't spend enough time researching the fundamentals of stocks to be able to tell you if this was a good decision or a bad decision. I just let the market tell me. Right now, the market, there's no information for me to have on this, so I'm going to stick away from that one. Yeah, KN, it's like Bollinger Bands in an interesting way. But these are predictive, however, KN. So the Camarilla pivots are actually predictive. So they're calculated at the beginning of the day, and they don't have any modification that happens as the price modifies, which is why I really like them. They're a really good wear, but keep in mind, only a wear. They're not a trading signal. They're just a location to look for a good setup. Just for a personal plug, by the way, guys, I do have a book coming out probably in the next couple of months. It's in editing now. That's on this Camarilla based pivot system. So keep an eye out for that because I think it'll really help you out. So just a shameless plug. So let's see, Nvidia jumping against back above S4. I really like that, and I think that's going to be interesting. So we're going to look at that. I know we're going to have some. I know Mike B is going to watch Nvidia today. So let's go up and check out Kohl's. Kohl's does not trade well for me at all. So I don't know about this one, y'all, if this is your style or not. I mean, the price is moving. It's in the breakout, but I mean, look at the volume, right? So at least let this thing open and see what it does. Cisco, big gap down. Definitely below this value range. So I think Cisco could be fun to play. We're under S4, so I might actually look for Cisco to test and fail. And then CarMax, kind of like the same thing as Kohl's. It just doesn't really trade very well. Coming in on the admins, I do have Mike actually posting his list, and I was right. He is watching Nvidia. It's how did I know? We have AMD, Nvidia, and Tesla on Mike's list, and Mike, I think that's an awesome list. I think you're going to do pretty good on that. So there could be a depending on what platform you're using, Ryan. If you're using DOS, you may calculate them with or without pre-market data, and that will probably change them to look more like mine. Let's see here. Let's grab a couple of tickers out of the thing. NEGGD1. We can look at that. Let's get my list away. Right now, AMD, Neo, and Tesla are what I'm watching. NEGG, for plenty of float on this thing. This is Newegg. $7 stock. It was a 20-something dollar stock, maybe only like a half a year ago. This thing's really been some things have definitely been going on with Newegg lately. Notice we've had these volume days where we're getting these big pops. So we've definitely woken up a bit. I'm not really sure if there's catalyst here, but it's interesting. Right now I've got no volume in the pre-market, so with so much other stuff on there, I'd probably look elsewhere. But if you like the price range and that's really what attracts you, the ladder does look fairly bullish in the moment. So I would just make sure to let it open up, let it auction, get some good volume going, and then maybe see what happens. All right, so cool, looking good. All right, Tiffany's coming in with her watch list. Looks like Tiffany's liking Mike's list and adding Neo. So I like the direction this is going in. Yeah, I'm starting to like Billy more and more, Miles. Um, I really like this volume event that it had yesterday. So I'm really interested in keeping an eye on Billy. It's really close to being on my watch list. If it had more volume right now and it was in a more tradable range, it would definitely be on it. But right now we're kind of central value, so I'm going to need this thing to sell or rally a little bit. Um, but it could be really cool. Midas, you like an Oxy? I noticed we've seen some energy sector stuff on here, but if you're going to trade something, Oxy tends to trade better than most. The problem with Oxy is lately is Oxy has established this clean range, and if you're talking about how well the cams work, I actually shorted Oxy a few days ago. I think this was Friday. I shorted it right off of R3 on the daily. I ended up getting a move till about right about here before the stock price turned and rallied against me. I went out when the MAs crossed somewhere right around there, but it was a sweet move on those for sure. So and then after that, yesterday Oxy had a hard sell. Be cautious with Oxy. I know this thing's been really really strong lately, but people are really only okay, the gas is kind of coming off a little bit, the cost of, and without the gas prices going up, I use that as an indicator on these oil ones, oil related. If I see the price on the pumps coming off, then I don't like to go long on these. So because if the price of the pump starts to come off, or if more supply is added into the demand pool here, these stocks become devalued very quickly. So, and we've been in this high area for quite a while now, and our pushes, have been met with some pretty solid selling. So just, it could just be choppy today, but just keep an eye on that. Right now, we're actually between R3 and R4, and this is a kill zone, so I would expect it to be very choppy in here. And for me, I would actually look for it if it loses R3 and sets up underneath it. I'd actually look for it to short and fail. If you're going to play it long, and I know this doesn't sound enjoyable, but let's go out to a 5-minute chart. If you're going to play this long for me, I would actually need it to sell all the way down to here to play it long off of 57, or I would actually need it to rally, get above $60 and prove it and break out, and then I could long it here. But where it's at right now, I actually don't have a play unless I want to play it short for this small move from S. This will be a traverse from S3, R3 down to S3. If I want, I could probably play that move down if it fails. But those are the only things I'm seeing available as far as a good move as of right now. Our boy Eamon coming in. What's up, dog? Potential longs, Twitter. Cool. Might not trade today. A lot is already extended. Exactly, Eamon. So Eamon's kind of what I was saying is, with this big rally that it's already had in the morning with everything that's been running, kind of blows everything's ATR out already. So if you're playing value, you're playing trading ranges, these get a lot more tricky because you've had such an extension in price. All right, we got JRAD in the house. AMD, LCID, Delta, Secondary, Riot, Neo, and Nvidia. The profit of profit, Oxy, CarMax, Cisco, Lucid, and Veru holding the swing. I think I saw him getting into that and goofing around with that yesterday. Good to see he got that out. Megan coming in strong. CSCO, that's Cisco and Twitter. And we got Dima, Apple, AMD, Twitter, Oxy. Myself right now, I've settled on AMD, Neo, Tesla. And I'm going to be watching my scanner. For those of you who don't know, I have a scanner that throws out some pivot scans out there. If you're in the chat room, you already know where that's at. That looks like we're about good there on list, everybody. Tomorrow we have Carlos back in the house, so look for a smoother, more polished pre-market show tomorrow. Maybe not as good looking, but just kidding, Carlos, love you. But definitely more smooth and more polished. So I hope everyone enjoyed being with us this time. If y'all did, please throw a thumbs up. Really appreciate that. Like, subscribe to the channel. Norm, thank you so much for hanging with me and being patient with all the tech stuff. As always, man, you rock. Look forward to a good trading day today, man. I'll talk to you a little bit later.